All right. Well, welcome everybody back to my YouTube channel, The Courage to Teach Differently. Please like and subscribe to my videos so that you can get each weekly update on the next theme or topic that we are discussing that is connected to Finnish education and also CBE or CBC classrooms, depending on how you know it. So we are continuing our discussion on creativity. However, this week we are focusing on how creativity moves toward agency, student agency. So we use reflection in the classroom throughout each lesson and at the end of the day, at the end of the week, which then builds confidence in the students as they become more comfortable with what they're learning and explaining their reasons, which then leads to more student agency. So this week marks an exciting new chapter in our Creativity and Critical Thinking series. We're exploring how creativity grows from thoughtful reflection and blossoms into genuine student agency. Those powerful moments when learners are trusted to act, create, and lead, not just answer questions or follow instructions, right? That's what we want. We want these 21st century skills that students are needing to have to be successful in their future. So when students create, they learn more deeply. This is a research-based idea. When students are being creative, something happens, transforms in their minds. They don't just understand a concept, they own it. Creation transforms learning from repetition into discovery, from passive reception into active construction of knowledge. So when they've been taught a concept and they've maybe done activities on it that the teacher has designed, and then reflected on what they learned, and then they are given the opportunity to think how they want to share this information with others. That's where that creativity, that's where that active learning happens. This is the precise moment confidence begins to take root, when learners see themselves as genuinely capable of shaping ideas, solving problems, and contributing something meaningful. Creative expression becomes the bridge between understanding and agency, right? So this is what all teachers, I think, would love to have, is students who are motivated to share what they have learned in a creative way, not something that is prescribed. They're not sitting at the desks waiting for the teacher to tell them what to do, but they have ideas of their own and they are growing deeper in their understanding of the concept. So from a Rekla Lens, the Finnish inspired framework tells us that environments like this that we're talking about, that where we have reflection and then we have confidence and then we have agency, environments like this show that reflection serves as the heartbeat of growth. So that's the groundbreaking area where we really want to sit our lessons. We want to focus on that reflection. This three-stage framework shows how creativity naturally leads to student agency. So you can see in step one, we are reflecting. What did I notice about my learning? What patterns emerged? What surprised me, right? What don't I understand? And then it moves into step two, which is confidence. I can do this differently next time, right? I see what works and what I can improve. So they've tried something. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. Now they understand, okay, great, I can do this, right? And then agency is the third step. I will apply this idea in my own way. I'm ready to take initiative and create. When students reflect authentically, they recognize their own progress. They can see the transition. What I like to say is they like to connect the dots, right? All of a sudden, we as teachers, we put lots of hooks, which are facts or concepts in a student's head. But if those hooks, those dots are not connected, we haven't achieved understanding and a deep understanding of that. So once they use reflection, that's where you can see all that random information starts to connect, and they begin, their eyes light up. Oh, I get it, right? They begin to really want to tell others, hey, did you know, right? And they share their ideas. Recognition builds confidence, and confidence naturally evolves into agency, the courage and capability to take meaningful initiative in their learning journey. Some of the schools and teachers that I've talked to are struggling with, okay, but our school is more traditional, or my students came from a traditional setting. That transition from that traditional idea into this student agency where they're in control of their learning journey is a process for sure, and it takes time. But reflection is sort of that bridge. So if you have a class that's much more from a traditional setting and you want to move them towards student agency, one of the best steps is to just start doing reflections. Reflect after each lesson, reflect after each section, each unit, reflect at the end of the day, reflect after PE time or play time, right? So adding reflection in there when students really start to think about their behavior, their actions, their learning, all of that. Circle integration is another great way to do that. So what are some practical classroom ways to do some of these creative ideas? I'll share with you 3 of those now. So number 1, we call it connect, extend, and challenge. This powerful routine invites students to actively link new ideas to their prior understanding. So remember those hooks or those dots that are just sort of floating around in their heads. It creates links in between those ideas rather than passively receiving information, which is what kids do. They observe, they learn, they absorb, right? They're like a sponge. So it's passive learning. But what we want to do is move them towards this active sort of connecting the dots realm. So they become architects of their own language. So how does it work? Number 1, we can ask the question, how does this relate to what I already know? So the KWL idea, right? What I know, what I want to know, what I've already learned. What connections can I draw? So helping students connect today's concept or today's lesson with something that happened last week or the week before, right? Helping them make those connections. Then number 2, we extend. So what ideas or possibilities does this add to my thinking? So now I learned something a week ago, and now I'm learning something else. If I put these 2 together, right, just like a compound word, you put 2 words together, you get something new, right? So this is the same idea. I have this concept I learned last week in science. Now I'm learning this concept in science. If I put them together, what is new that I'm now creating? And number 3, the challenge. What makes me rethink my assumptions or question further? What else do I wonder, right? These routines cultivate creative agency because students become active thinkers who expand and interrogate ideas instead of just receiving them, right? We were talking about this in one of the other videos where kids are watching TikTok and YouTube and all kinds of videos, news, everything that's out there. And they have to critically think, is this something good? Should I believe this? Is this true? Is it a deep fake? They've got to be able to observe and know and have critical thinking skills. So this is one of those activities that builds that. It transforms learners into curious questioners and confident knowledge builders. All right, number 2, we call it claim, support, and question. So number 1, we're going to make a claim, state an idea or a position clearly and confidently, right? It can be, for older children, we can use this as a debate activity, right? For younger children, we can just process through this together as students. So we're talking about the habitats, maybe specifically the desert habitat, all right? What is one clear position that we can say that we know for sure is a fact about desert habitats, right? Number two, then we provide support. So give evidence, provide examples, or reasoning to back up this claim. So my claim is that camels live in desert habitats. My evidence is that a camel is designed specifically for the desert because it has extra eyelids that go the other direction. It's got extra fur in its ears to keep the sand out. And its nose is not round. It's got slits so that they can close them in case of a sandstorm. In addition, they have big foot pads that help them walk and not sink into the sand. And they aren't in need of tons of water, right? So all of those characteristics of a camel help me to know that a camel can live in the desert. Number three, ask a question. So identify what you're still wondering or what keeps inquiry alive. So my next question is, I don't really understand why a camel has a hump. I haven't learned that yet. So how does the hump on the camel support it living in the desert, right? So there we can keep inquiry alive. In this reflection routine, students build authentic confidence by articulating their reasoning process. They learn to state a clear claim, support it with evidence, and then ask a thoughtful question that demonstrates ongoing curiosity. This approach builds creative confidence because it honors both certainty and uncertainty, right? I don't know the answer to this next question. Students learn that having a question isn't a weakness. It's a sign of deep thinking and intellectual courage, right? Again, student agency, giving them the courage to ask questions, to inquire, to wonder, because that's where we get into the deeper learning. If all they're doing is taking in your lecture or your facts or your information, they might be able to spit it back out on a piece of paper, but they won't be able to remember it long term. It's not going to impact their learning, and they're not going to connect it to other things as they move along the school year. When learners can confidently express what they know and what they're still exploring, then true agency emerges, right? Because they begin to control their learning journey. All right, number three is confidence through creative expression. When students express their own reasoning or share creative solutions, something profound shifts in their self-perception. This is all research-based. They begin to see themselves not just as learners, but as contributors. So if your classroom has a lot of behavior issues, I did another video about behaviors, and behavior issues is not something that you need to control as a teacher. A behavior issue is telling you that the child is not understanding something, needs to process something, is unclear about something, doesn't know what to do with their feelings or themselves. And so their response is to act because that's all they know. They don't have the words for it, so they just act. So when we create this classroom community, right, where everybody is a part of this community, they are contributing to the greater good of the classroom, then they have autonomy, they have agency, they have freedom, they begin to control themselves. So as you increase student agency, creativity, reflection, those sorts of things will automatically begin to decrease the behaviors that you have in the class that are unwanted behaviors. Students begin to see themselves as participants, contributors, people with ideas worth sharing and perspectives worth considering. This also gets built in our circle integration time, which is another video I did, where we really focused on what the importance of circle time is, or you can call it discussion time if you have older students. But circle integration is for all levels, from grade 1 or kindergarten all the way up to grade 12, because this circle integration is where everybody becomes even, right? When you have rows of desks, the front students, they kind of are closer. They feel closer to the teacher. Maybe they feel like a teacher's pet. And the ones at the back inevitably will feel left out. And so teachers are forced to rotate students, move some to the front, some to the back, maybe create line leaders. And the idea behind rows of desks is that it creates competition because students begin to realize there's a hierarchy. But when you do circle integration, you sort of flatten that plane. And we don't have that competition. We have cooperation. We have community. And that's what we want in learning. So confidence isn't built through praise alone. It's built through meaningful participation, through opportunities to contribute ideas that matter. So if your class is designed with reward charts, again, that's going to create competition, right? And it's just when the student is doing well, you give them a star. But that's not enough. That does not create community. It does not create internal motivation because the student is passively waiting for the teacher to acknowledge that they're doing a good job. And we want all of that to come from within them. When we create classroom environments where learners can present ideas that genuinely influence discussions, projects, and outcomes, agency takes root naturally. Students discover their voice has power, their creativity has value, and their contributions make a difference. Again, this is set up very easily in circle integration. Okay, so like all my videos, I really want to hear your comments and questions about this topic. So today's question, if you can add some comments below, how might your students take creative action this week based on what they've already learned? So you don't have to add something more to your lesson planning. This isn't about adding more work. This is about giving student agency, opportunity for the students to take something they've already learned and share it in a creative way or express it in a creative way. So ask this reflection question at the end of a lesson or during a reflection circle. It's simple but powerful. It helps students make the essential connection between learning and doing, between understanding and action. This question positions students as agents of their own journey. It invites them to consider not just what they're learning, but what they'll do with their learning, right? We don't need to, so the traditional way is we teach them what they have to learn, right? The content, and they just simply memorize it and they regurgitate it on an exam or a quiz. That's the traditional old way of doing things. The new way where we are teaching skills, we're teaching how to learn. We're teaching the skills, the critical thinking skills, the communication, the collaboration, right? We're teaching active learning. And so they will learn not only all of those things, but with reflection and creativity, they will learn what to do with their learning, right? So this shifts from knowledge to application, and it's where agency truly lives. Okay, so let's just do a bit of a reflection ourselves. So number one, reflection is when students notice their learning patterns and growth, which leads to confidence. Let's make it lead to creativity, where we have expression, experimentation, and deep understanding, which then leads to confidence, where we recognize the progress that we are able to do. We build self-confidence, and that leads to agency. Learners take initiative and create meaningful work. So I hope that you are able to choose one small creative activity to do with the students this week. Prior to that, have some reflection time so that you can begin to build student agency in your classroom. Thank you for your commitment to fostering creativity and agency. Your students are fortunate to have an educator who believes in their capacity to create, lead, and grow. Next week, we're going to explore how to sustain creative agency through authentic assessment and student choice. So we will get into assessments, rubrics, and lesson planning. So have a great week, and I hope it's a creative one.